You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Armchair Cricket Podcast, a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. We are recording this episode just a day before Virat Kohli turns 31, apparently. So, on this auspicious day, let me welcome my co host Ajit so we can talk about this and hopefully many other things. Hello, Ajit. How's it going?
Hi, Giri. Why is it supposedly? Are you saying he might have some Shahid Afridi endurance or other things? I would like to understand.
Well, there is another thing that is born tomorrow, or another character that is born tomorrow. If I read it right, I think there's a superhero coming up. It's called Super V, named after
Indeed.
him, and he's supposed to inspire the new generation.
Yeah, why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah. So
Well, I was looking at the promos. It looked very promising.
mhm.
Unfortunately, I think I'll be at work when it comes really live, but maybe I'll catch some,
Uh-huh.
highlights online and
Yeah.
we can talk about it in one of the upcoming episodes, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Although it's probably directed for kids, it's more for a younger audience. But I think your taste is a little wider than any normal person, right? So we were just talking about this MSG thing, just offline before we started recording this episode. So I wouldn't be surprised if you were to become an ardent follower of this Super V thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Come on. I actually hold myself responsible for not introducing you to this phenomenon that was the movies of MSG. That'll be a podcast in itself, so I'll not go too much into it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's totally worth it. I think was serious,
Mm.
but you can get a lot of fun out of it
Yeah.
if you ever were to watch it.
Yeah. But then again, let's start talking about cricket. Let's say, and I mean, I miss so much of cricket all these days because I was quite busy at work. I think I must have missed nearly 2 weeks of cricket, although I was following score lines and stuff like that. But what I found interesting was a match being played at Ferozshah Kotla in Delhi. Uh, Even though the pollution level,
Mhm.
air pollution was quite rampant over there, I read. And I was even surprised to look at some pictures of people not wearing, pollution mask while playing out there in the middle, the players especially. So India and Bangladesh, right? Did you follow this match? I'm sure you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I was able to see most of it live, and first of all, it turned out to be the good thing that Ganguly, the president of BCCI, thanked the players of both the teams to play in Delhi. It did look like very smoggy indeed. So I was even surprised. There was no stoppage in play due to bad visibility or something. That could have been a chance, a realistic chance. So coming back to the match, well, it was one of those close matches because the match went into the last over of the game, of course.
Mm.
And Bangladesh came out deservedly the winners. All thanks to Mushfiqur Rahim, who finished unbeaten on 60. And unlike a couple of previous instances, he was able to take Bangladesh home, right? And Mahmudullah, the captain, stayed with him and made 15 unbeaten. So, look, India struggled quite a lot. So, they were really lucky to even make 148 with 30 runs being taken off the last 2 overs by Krunal Pandya and Washington Sundar. So basically, Shikhar Dhawan struggled to run a ball 41, KL Rahul 15, then Iyer 22 and Punch 27. Basically, nobody was able to really make a big dent in the scores in terms of strike rate, at least, because Shreyas Iyer looked really comfortable and I thought he got out to an injudicious shot. Outside of that, most people struggled, right? Shivam Dubey did not look the part. Okay, he only got to face 4 balls effectively. So a lot of credit goes to how Bangladesh bowled. So we should not be taking any credit away from them because they've been bowling quite well. The spinners bowled really well, especially the leg break bowler, right? Aminul Islam, who took 2 wickets. Then you had, I think, Shafiul also took 2 wickets, but he was a bit costly. Aminul Hussain got hit in the last but 1 over, but I think initially Aminul Hussain and Mustafizur Rahman bowled really well. They kept the tabs on the Indian scoring in the first couple of overs, and then once the spinners came on, Afif Hussain and Mosaddiq and Mahmudullah also had a small role to play. So they all bowled really, really effectively in the middle over. So the over, let's say number between 7 to 15, India could not get any momentum. They struggled at 6 an over or so. So that's what cost India the match. They were about 20 runs short comfortably. And this was unlike many other Firoz Shah Kotla pitches which we are aware of or which we are usually seeing in IPL, because it was not going to be low and slow. It was somewhat two-paced, the pitch, but still, Bangladesh did the right thing by winning the toss and bowling first without any knowledge of how the pitch would behave, and it turned out to be the right thing to do as well, because even when they batted, they were not able to really make a big score or they get off to a big start or a quick start. So Soumya Sarkar and Mohammad Naeem studied the innings after Leighton Das was out quickly. And then Soumya Sarkar also had a very good partnership with Mushfiqur Rahim, it must be said. Mohammad Naeem was debuting, and I think he played very steadily. But the difference was that, that over from Khalil, where he gave away 4 boundaries in 4 balls. So, I don't know. Did you notice any good talking points for yourself as well?
Uh, Not much. I only read that there was a dropped catch by the other Pandya, Krunal Pandya, of the
Indeed.
bowling of Chahal, I guess. And that turned out to be a
Yes.
crucial moment in the game. I think Mushfiqur was playing, or he was batting on 30 odd runs at that point in time. And then if he was dismissed, maybe the scoreline would have looked different. And India might have, caused a few jitters in the Bangladeshi middle order. But yeah, but the drop catch, I think, proved to be very costly for the Indian cricket team. Yeah.
Yep, it was one of those easy catches. I mean, it was set up well. He hit it straight down the fielder's throat. It was at an awkward height, literally at his throat. But and he was one of those catches he would take 98 out of 100 times, probably 99 out of 100. This was the one that was to be dropped, and unfortunately, it bounced out of his hands and hit the boundary rope after a bounce. So it was a 4, and more importantly, that was the thing that opened the floodgates. So that over from Yuzvendra Chahal in the 17th of the game, 16th of the game, it cost 13. Then the next over of Khalil was the one that where all the damage happened. So they took just 2 singles of the first 2 balls, but he held his nerve. So he played all round the wicket first of all. So Mushfiqur deserves a lot of credit here. So he played all round the wicket, and also with those 4 balls as well, 3 balls he very effectively put them to boundary. The fourth one he was a bit lucky, but he deserved the luck. So at the time of dropping of the catch, the run rate was 12 and over. And if that catch had been taken, I think that would have been very difficult for Bangladesh. And effectively from that point on, Mahmudullah and maybe, people like Mosaddiq Hussain and Afif, whoever would come in, would have a lot of pressure on them. But that whole thing was let out in those about 10 balls. And after that, it was also a weird thing to see Shivam Dubey being given the ball in spite of, Chahar having the over left. It was something, I think, an experiment, so to say. So all in all, the plan was sort of working as far as India was concerned. They were able to take it to Bangladesh net 50 of the last 30 balls, but they had wickets in hand, so they had to be given credit there that Soumya Sarkar and Mushfiqur Rahim built that innings, and therefore they made sure they had 3 or 4 good hitters left in the hut if required, and luckily they didn't need any of those things. So I think this sort of takes away a couple of very painful memories for Bangladesh. The Nidahas Trophy final comes to mind, and that I think was it the Asia Cup where Bangladesh, I think Mushfiqur himself celebrated a bit prematurely with 2 runs required, and the match ended there when Bhuvaneshwar Kumar was bowling the last over, right?
Yeah.
So
The famous Nagin dance. The famous Nagin dance.
Nagin dance was, I think, in the Nidahas Trophy.
In Nidahas Trophy, okay, could have been. Okay.
Yeah, so but that was Nagin dance is also a bit of needle between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh as well. So anyway, but all in all, I think what he showed was there are not a lot of demonstrations or anything. He appeared calm, both his feet on the ground, even after hitting the winning runs. Right? Okay. I think there was 1 or 2 exaltations. That was very nice to see that he kept his cool, and indeed he's also said it off after the match, right? Off air, he has said that with all the chaos that's surrounding Bangladesh cricket in these couple of weeks, right? I think a couple of wins in this tour would do them serve them very well. So That's something I think they're very serious about that. They're very focused on that, and you can see that in their actions. They bowled really well, they fielded very well, and they took the match home. So it's an interesting, interesting thing that India are now fifth in the rankings, right?
Yeah.
And the T20 World rankings. I know the difference between the top five teams is not a lot, but still, Pakistan are comfortably ahead. But the next four teams, there's a lot that they can play for, and India will want to win the next two matches, I'm sure. But what do you think? Will it going to be easy for India to do that?
Well, actually, to be honest, I think Bangladesh, Shakib Al Hasan's ban might actually turn out to be a wake up call for the other players. To bring themselves forward and put up a good performance in order for their team to win. And this was a very good occasion where Mushfiqur, stood up and then made sure that he was there till the end. Um, I fancy Bangladesh having another go here. I think they might as well. I mean, they might actually level the series if one of the other matches is cancelled due to bad weather, which could turn out to be the case in the next T20, right? Being played at Rajkot. I read that there is a chance that a cyclone might hit the same area and during the match, so that could be called off. And if Bangladesh either can win one or even level the series, it's going to be a fantastic result for Bangladesh cricket in general. So it's going to be interesting, and India's experimentation will continue. I was surprised to see Rishabh Pant being fielded. I would have given Sanju Samson another go, right? I mean, he deserves a chance, and he looks.
I have a feeling we'll see him in the series.
Yeah, maybe they should give him a chance because I think he scored. He's in fantastic form. He just scored the double 100 in domestic cricket, right? So he should be given a chance. And the other guys like Shivam Dube, I haven't seen him produce the goods even in IPL. So that's another performance due from him, I would say. And KL Rahul, yeah, I don't know where he can play in this team because he is not able to convert his starts. All he had to do was stay there till the end. I think he was out for a very soft dismissal again. So, yeah, if Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan don't click at the top of the order, India look very vulnerable, especially because they don't have somebody like Kohli. And Kohli is having a very deserved break. I think he needs the break. It's going to be interesting in the second match. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, even if the match were to happen, that is, right? And look, the bowling is also not very experienced. Deepak Chahar and Khalil are the fast bowlers, and you have Chahal, who's a very good spinner, of course. I was actually a bit, it was a bit interesting to see there was no Jadeja. Given that the bowling lineup was going to be so inexperienced, somebody of Jadeja's experience would have made some difference, I think.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, I think the most experienced bowler in that lineup was actually Chahar. Chahar or Chahal could have been one of those. Could be Chahal. Chahal. And in terms of seamers, I think it was Chahar. And Khalil has only played a couple of matches, right? So he played some in New Zealand. So it's fairly inexperienced. So let's see. I mean, they might be given some more chances, all in the preparation towards the World T20 next year in Australia. So yeah. So it's a bit of chop and change. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully they come back strong in the next match. Yeah, they have a point to prove, right? So,
indeed. Now I do expect a couple of changes. Samson may get in a look ahead of Shivam Dube. Let's see. Depending on the pitch, of course, and depending on the conditions that day. Going on, you have the Australia-Sri Lanka T20 that finished. Now we have a series of T20s going on all over the world. So the Australia-Sri Lanka third T20 happened in the same period, and well, I mean, Australia comfortably beat Sri Lanka. There were no surprises as far as this match result was concerned, right? So, Warner remained unbeaten again. So that was the main thing. Sri Lanka, in this case, batted first. This was the match held in Melbourne, and they batted first, and they made 142 for 6 with Kusal Perera making 57. And, Warner again remained unbeaten, making 57. And Ashton Turner sort of made 22 and helped him finish the match off comfortably. There was not a lot that they were worried about. For a change, Steven Smith failed. He made just 13. So that was good. That was news in that match. But outside of that, I don't know how many instances of an entire series where an opener remained unbeaten. So, I'm going to look it up again later. I could not find many series. In fact, I could not find any series where an opener remained unbeaten. in the entire series, in a T20 international series. So I'm going to continue searching for it. But if any of our listeners would like to point us to any such example, I would be very curious, because that's a fantastic achievement by Warner. This is his first set of games at home after the ban ended and everything, and he's sort of coming back with a vengeance. He's sort of making the Australian public fall in love with him all over again. We know how effective he is, and he's trying to probably re-establish himself, and that was very nice to see. So once that tournament ended, right at the back of it, Australia played Pakistan, and the first T20 was played in Sydney. And in this case, Pakistan batted first. It was a rain truncated game, and they made 107 for 5. So in that case, Babar Azam, the skipper who also opens the bat, made a very classy 59 of just 38 balls. Right, he was the one player that looked really a cut above in the Pakistani team there, and only Mohammad Rizwan, the keeper, made a very patient 31 of just 33 balls. But outside of that, this looked like a total that was not going to be enough. And it was going that way in as much that Finch made 37 of just 16 balls. Mohammad Irfan, the tall left-arm fast bowler who's been brought back at a very slightly old age of 37 into the team, he was able to. He completely lost control with the new ball. I think he bowled a couple of full tosses in the first over. He was able to get away with that. But the second over or the third over of the game, when he got in again, Finch made him pay. He hit him for a couple of fours and sixes, and there was even a no ball, if I'm not wrong. And 26 runs were taken off that over. So that meant after 3.1 overs, Australia were 41 for no loss. And all they needed was just 11 legal deliveries, and that would have been a game for them. Unfortunately, rain intervened, and they never got back on the field, and the match finished with a no result. So, it puts a bit of focus on that 20-minute interval that they decided to keep in spite of the rain delays. I don't know what is the precedent for this or what is the rule behind this, but it seems a bit bizarre given that, so much of play is happening and so much of play is being lost, and you would want to keep some time saved for the player. So you take 10 minutes back into the game and maybe give one over each to both the teams. That would have made sense. Or just reduce the break by 10 minutes. In that case, probably Australia would have won. So I think Finch even came out after the match and expressed this, saying that probably it was a very narrow thing for them. Giri, I don't know if you were able to follow some highlights of this match.
No, not at all. I just read the report at the end, and I kind of agree with Aaron Finch there. 20 minutes is a waste of time. Maybe there were commercial reasons behind the break. They might have reserved some airtime for the sponsors and those kinds of things, so they would have to do that. Probably that could have been a strong motive. Although they played only 15 overs, right? I think the maximum number of overs they played was just 15, which would then mean they wouldn't have played even an hour, right? That's maximum 1 hour of cricket, or maybe 1 hour 10 minutes, 1 hour 15 minutes. Why do they need 15 or 20 minutes break? Just 5 minutes to change over, put the keeper's pads on and then come back out to the field. It's supposed to be the shortest format of cricket, and if you're adding more time to it, I think it will put people off even more, and people will slowly drift towards something like the 100, for example.
Right.
God forbid, or something like T10 that's supposed to be played in Abu Dhabi in the next few days, right? So T10, so something like this. So I mean, they have to think about this, the ICC and as well as the MCC, to ensure that we have some sort of lenience allowed towards reducing the amount of break we have. So something to ponder for the future, I would say.
Indeed,
for sure.
Look, it was something I think left to the local organizers, because the match was interrupted after 13 overs or 12 overs, and then they came back to only play 15 overs, right? So that means clearly a lot of time was lost, and you would automatically reduce the break, one would think. But anyway, it turned out Australia lost out very narrowly. But it was clear that they were better than Pakistan that day. It remains to be seen. The remaining T20s will show if that is truly the case, because the next T20 is later tonight or early tomorrow morning, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Let's see how that goes. Now, moving on, the next T20 series that is again underway is between New Zealand and England. This is a 5-match T20 series, so it's more like a preparation leading to the World Cup, I think, right? Also, for England to get set to the conditions there, because they play tests after that. So, in this case, 2 matches have been played. The first one was played on the 1st of November in Christchurch. And in this case, England won the game right? So this is also a new look England team, and they also are experimenting quite a lot with their top order as well as with their bowling. So New Zealand batting first made 153 for 5, and Ross Taylor made 44, and Darren Mitchell made 30, and Tim Seifert, the keeper, made 32 as well. But this was again 10 to 15 runs short very clearly. We could see that, and England chased this down with 9 balls to spare, with James Vince making 59, Johnny Bairstow making 35, and skipper Morgan being 34 not out at the end. So not a lot to write home about as far as New Zealand were concerned in this game, right? So they were comfortably outmatched. But the second T20I, which was played in Wellington, New Zealand were able to strike back. They took one back. So in this case, again, they batted first. They made 176 for 8, with Jimmy Neesham making 42, and then Colin de Grandhomme and Taylor making 28. And of course, Marty Guptill finally coming good, making 41. So this was sort of a more on par total. This was played at the Cake Tin, as it's called, in Wellington, right? It's a very nice stadium. And here, sort of, England fell well behind the chase, and in the end, in spite of some lusty blows by Chris Jordan, who made 36, they only were able to get to 155. So good restrictive bowling by spinners. Mitchell Santner took 3 wickets in both the games, and with the economy of around 6 and over, so that's very good bowling from him. And Saudi, the skipper, took 2 for 25, as well as Lockie Ferguson 2 for 34 in this case. Ishodi was a bit costly, but he took 2 for 37. So as a leg break bowler, you are allowed to be a bit costly. So all in all, it worked out well there. So this is going to be a very interesting series, with the series leveled 1-all. Going into the next set of matches, again, another one is going to be played later tonight or earlier tomorrow morning. So it's going to be good. I think I'm looking forward to how this series is going to end. Also, as far as England are concerned, they gave debut to another very fast bowler called Saqib Mahmood. They have their eyes on him. So, and Pat Brown, who's been a sort of a standout performer in their T20 leagues, the NatWest Blast. So they've given a couple of new faces there some chances. This is all Luke Gregory, for example, a stalwart performer for Somerset for many years. He's also playing. So all of these guys are sort of being blooded into the team to keep the World Cup in mind, I think. So it's going to be an interesting set of matches, right? So I don't know. Moving on, if you were to look at the West Indies women and India women matches that are going on. So there have been 2 matches, and the series is 1 apiece. With the first match was very tight. India could have won it off the last ball of the game, but they lost the last remaining wicket, and they were like all out 1 run short of West Indies. But the talking point in this match was the catch that Kaur, the Indian captain, took. Did you have a chance to catch that by any chance on YouTube or something?
No, unfortunately not. Sounds to be pretty fantastic or spectacular from what I heard from you.
She's a slight woman. She's not a very tall girl, but how she jumped and literally took the catch I think this was taken at long on boundary, very close to straight. I'll try to see if I can find a link to this catch on YouTube or something, and we'll put it in the episode notes if possible. Fantastic catch, unbelievably good catch. And you've seen all these fantastic catches being taken these days, where they toss the ball up and they come back in and take. This was more of a jump and catch the ball and land within the boundary sort of a catch, but she was like a cat, very, very agile and very, very, very alert. And she also jumped very high, I thought, abnormally high. If you weren't looking at this catch, like if you were to take away where she took off from, you would think she's jumping off a stool. She was so high in the air when the catch was taken. That was fantastic to see. So this was a talking point for me, at least. But the match was a very close one, and India lost narrowly. But in the second one, they were able to get their own. So in a low-scoring encounter, they made only 191 for 6, but they were able to restrict West Indian women to 138 all out. So with the spinners bowling really well there. So this is an interesting series as well. It's a part of the women's, the ICC Women's Championship that's also being played, and I think they also count points for every game. So it's going to be also important for both the teams from points perspective. So let's see how that develops. Now going further, we had the World T20 qualifiers, and it came to a conclusion with we had already identified the 6 teams that were qualified. But what remained was who was going to win the tournament, and Netherlands defended their trophy very comfortably. So Papua New Guinea, who were having a dream run and got into the finals, in the final they choked, or they couldn't really outmatch Netherlands. So congratulations to the Netherlands team. They did really, really well, and
Yay! Well done.
They've done really well here. They won the game and also the tournament. So they were already previously the champions. That was a shared trophy with Scotland. But they have again won it to show that they are really a force to be reckoned with in the T20 format, and they will also be looking forward to playing in the upcoming year's World Cup. Giri.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting. Who's going to be the captain, by the way?
So it's Peter Saylor.
Oh, Peter Seeler. Okay.
Tendo is like emeritus, player emeritus. So
Okay.
he's sort of senior statesman in the team. And here he's also expressed his, let's say, willingness to continue playing. So that's fantastic as well. So he wants to play the World T20 if possible. He's said, we heard this week.
I think he's going to be 40 years old. I think he's 38 or 39 now already.
Indeed.
So, yeah. So,
I saw the final, man. I mean, he was the guy that finished off the chase for Netherlands in the final. I mean, he looks really, really fit, and I think he plays county regularly, right? For Essex, he's a
course.
county winning skipper at Essex. So, I think he's still very cricket fit, and I think again one of those age being a number cases. But I think he's able to retain the focus and the fitness. He would be more than happy to represent Netherlands, and Netherlands would be very happy to have him. Somebody like that at number 5 and number 6 in the T20 lineup would be crucial, right?
Yeah.
So let's hope Netherlands are able to shine also in the upcoming T20 World Cup. We would be very proud of them. We are already proud of them, but it would be great if they are also able to go a bit further, right?
Yeah.
All right. Going further now, if you were to look at some of the news from off the cricketing field, so PCB we hear had to fend off a player revolt last week because of all the no objection certificates that had been denied to players who are going to play, especially in the United Arab Emirates T10 League, what you're already referring to earlier. And some CPL also, some players were given no objection certificates, and as usual, they were withdrawn at the last moment or something. And many players had to come back because they were asked to participate in the ongoing first class trophy, the Qaeda Azam trophy or something. So many players are not happy. So Imad Wasim, and he sort of led this discussions with the MD Wasim Khan, and some assurances were made, right? So it looks like they fended off another revolt. Sort of Pakistani players, I think, might have been influenced or taken some, succor from what happened at Bangladesh, and they may have decided to take their own action. But it looks like, that was sort of tipped in the bud, so to say. But also, I think they sort of came to some sort of agreements there, and so because many players are forced to play only in the local leagues, probably some of their earnings would be hit. So it's an important point, and I can understand why it's pretty important because people like Shoaib Malik, who are at the twilight of their career, it's very crucial that they also convert whatever opportunities they get to play certain teams because certain at least T20 leagues or T10 leagues around the world. Shoaib Malik has a very good reputation in T10s and T20s, and I think he would have led a team in both cases. So that would have been a bit of a big loss as far as he's concerned. So let's see how that spins through. But it looks like some accommodations might have to be made for the players, otherwise it will not be a good thing, right? The other thing, it's this power player concept. It's a new concept that BCCI is mulling, we hear, ahead of next year's IPL. Giri, did you read about this?
Yeah, only very briefly. Something along the lines of what they do in football, right? So you do name a playing 11 in football, but here you don't have a playing 11. You just name 15 players who take up the field, out of which 11 people take up the field if you're a fielding side, and then a bowler or a batsman or a fielder can be replaced at the end of an over or at the fall of a wicket, if I understood it right. So I don't know. I mean, I still haven't got my head around this. I have to look at all the details, but what do you think about it? I mean, it's probably another artificial thing they're trying to inject some new drug into cricket, which they don't need. They've already made it. Well, I'm a purist, so I'm going to say this. They've already made it stupid enough, so they don't want to complicate this even more.
Look, this is a concept that's always prevalent in American sports like baseball or basketball. It's very common, and it's very common to see that you have these specialized, sports persons like a finisher when it comes to, a baseball pitcher who comes out to bowl in the ninth inning, for example. It's a very American concept. Also in basketball, it's always a rotating set of players, 9 to 10 players, of which at any point in time about 5 are on the field, right, or on the court. So this is possible in many other games as well, like volleyball, for example. So it's just an experiment, and I'm not particularly averse against it. So if you remember that example that they were talking of, like somebody like Andy Russell sitting waiting in the
Hmm.
dugout and just coming out to finish off games either with the bat or the ball, that seems like a very exciting prospect as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
It takes away a bit from the narrative of this tension building or somebody coming in and setting up an innings and then finishing it off. You just have these set pieces or players who are good at finishing things or delivering a result for you, being taking a wicket or coming and hitting 20 runs off an over or whatever. So it might not be a totally alien concept. For me, I think it might work. And I'm just curious how it's going to be, whether if it works successfully in an IPL, does that mean other T20 leagues try it out, or maybe ICC will really consider it? Because it's also one of those things that can make it exciting if you're a fan. There is this narrative of this,
Yeah.
me against the world that you get to see
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much in
yeah. I
test
couldn't
matches.
care less. I couldn't care less.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, I know you already said it. Of course, you're a purist, and it doesn't sit well. But look, this is the way it is in the world out there.
Yeah, but really hope they don't do something stupid like this to Test cricket. They should let them, let it be. We already have a concussion substitute, right? So I don't want them to do something else after this. Concussion substitute, it's a bit understandable. It's somewhat reasonable, I would say, but not these things anyway.
Also, I think there is a allowance for a keeper to be substituted at any point in time, because keeper is the most specialized fielding position there is, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
yeah.
have somebody else. So these things are there, but I think Test cricket will be left alone. I have a feeling this is something that will be, I think, restricted only to T20s, and if at all, maybe to ODIs. And I'm talking a few years down the line. So I'm thinking Test cricket will be left alone, Giri. I think if
Ah,
you were to think this makes sense, you can rest assured that probably it'll be safe,
that's a relief.
because there you still have that one man against the world sort of a scenario, where that's the whole point. That's the drama that Test cricket provides.
Hmm.
So I think they're going to leave it. Let's see how that goes.
Let's see.
But what I would like to see is this. There are people in power who are actually thinking about things, be it T10 or be it this 100 or be it this power player. I like to see that people, those that are in charge of the game, are actually able to think and see. They might be sometimes thinking purely in terms of monetary gains, or but for me, that's the way sometimes the sport itself can progress. I'm a fan of cricket, and I don't want cricket to go away. And of course, God forbid that there only be T10s or T20s tomorrow. But it's allowed that you make some experimentation. That's my point of view. So let's see how it's
Hmm.
even going to be, whether it's even going to be part of IPL in the coming year, and if how it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
See, another sport I follow or try to follow as closely as I can, if you can even call that a sport, it's Formula One. And they have done so many changes over the last few years, starting with the introduction of new engines or power units, as they're called now. They've made that sport very artificial, and you see one team dominating, and they're trying to make small changes here and there just to make it a bit more exciting or entertaining for the audience. But you still see the dropping number of spectators. They cannot simply address the demand or address the lack of demand. They cannot make it any more entertaining. So I'm just afraid that they'll do a lot of these things also to cricket, bring these American things that might work in America. That's a different audience, different spectators. Don't try to do that too much to cricket, I would say. Proceed with caution. Okay, I'm all for this, changes. You have to, stay with the time or ahead of time, but don't make too many changes. Not so soon anyway. So you already have 100, T20, T10, whatnot, So yeah, let's proceed with caution.
Look, sometimes there are short-lived experiments that die a natural death. The super sub did, right?
Yeah.
So then there's nothing wrong in trying new things. Like, for example, if I were to take your example forward with F1, there's something called the sausage curbs. That is something new. And if I'm not wrong, if I read right, it cost Sebastian Vettel race yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll not go into that. That can happen. Sometimes, sometimes innovations can have unintended consequences. But if that's the case, it will die out by itself. That's my point of view. Let's see. But what I would like to completely agree, at least as far as you are concerned, is the primacy of Test cricket should be preserved, and Test cricket's dimensions of what it represents as a challenge should not be touched. That I totally agree. It is a sport that belonged in a different era for sure, but it still represents a good battle. It still represents a good show of character, and that should be preserved. And this I completely agree with, and I really hope that stays that way as well. Right? So now, let's look at the trivia section. So the trivia question from the previous episode was, which team has won the Vijay Hazare Trophy most number of times? So we had a couple of guesses online. A user called DS Patti made a guess that it was Mumbai. So that's a good guess, but that's not the right answer. So the right answer is Tamil Nadu with 5 wins. Karnataka has 4 wins, and Mumbai is third with 3 wins. We are happy to see that there are people guessing or sending in some answers, so that's not a problem. We always encourage our listeners to do that. The trivia question from this episode is, if you were to set a cutoff of 100 matches captain in T20, right, which captain has the best win percentage? So this is not just international T20 matches, but T20 matches across the board. So which skipper has the best win-loss percentage if you were to take 100 matches captain, right? So you can send in your answers through either social media platform, for example, on Twitter at armchair.cricket or through mail armchair.cricket@gmail.com or on our Facebook page. Or if you're listening to our podcast on any app, you can leave it as a comment to that app's, let's say, episode, right? So we always encourage our listeners to write into us. It always gives us a bit of a fillip, right? And it also gives us some motivation because we look for nice, interesting trivia questions in many cases. So, with many nice matches coming up, we'll have a lot to talk over in the upcoming episodes as well. We have some interesting guests planned as well. So, I hope all our listeners are continuing to stay tuned in with all our episodes, right? So, having said all that, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him. Bye bye.
You're listening to the Armchair Cricket Podcast.